Hi everyone. I'm actually making this video in relation to something that I actually came across a few days ago. And for those who are not aware, I'm actually teaching. Obviously, right now. I just went back to teaching in the university. No, I mean, no guesses about where it is and whatever and what course and things like that. But uh, part of the thing that actually cropped up during my teaching, which relates to this issue about narcissism, about mental disorders, also the relationship to human psychology in general, okay, and also mixed media messaging. It has to do with this particular instance during one class when I was trying to, I was teaching The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, okay, in the class for fantasy literature, and in the process of showing them clips from the movie, uh, it just happens that my computer, not the computer, but the not my computer, but the computer, the PC unit in the uh, classroom, the seminar room, okay, needed me to log in via my own account on YouTube, so for me to show those videos. And so what happened was that I actually logged in on my YouTube, and students saw my search history, which included a search history on the legal spat going on between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni, and concerning the movie adaptation of Colin Hoover's novel "It Ends with Us." So they were just, I think the most vocal, one of the most vocal students just said, "Oh, Professor Kevin, looks like this is this is very interesting search history." Some of the others they saw, because everything's on the computer is linked to different TV panels where they could have a look at the notes and the broadcast, and I was like, okay, yeah, sure. But it's not like a big thing or things that will cause me to get into trouble. But I was just, I guess some of them will come and say, oh, you were searching for a ATEEZ, ATTEEZ. These are the Korean group music, YouTube. Of course, I listen to K-pop, but I mean, when I'm free, and I mean, that's just a thing aside. But talking about that, it just reminds me of something that was being said um, in the whole set of legal spats, as the legal spat between um, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. And so, as you all know, Justin Baldoni released quite a series of texts and videos with it really shows Blake Lively in a whole new light, and it was all this were not just released by him. Actually, it was his legal representative, his was his prosecution attorney or lawyer, Brian Feldman, I think so. Yeah, that's his name. Brian Feldman, okay, who actually, it was like a 179 page uh, release online and on the website, and uh, of course, there were no legal injunctions to stop it, because it is not possible for Blake Lively or even Ryan Reynolds to do that. Okay, under the freedom of information laws in the states, which so that we get a sense of who these people are. And as I've said, Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively are pretty much narcissistic bullies, and you have people like Candace Owen, who's like a blogger on one of the quite famous neoconservatives, on who's been commenting on this. She even calls Ryan Reynolds a psychopath, one who must bulldoze his way into power and control. Okay, we talk about power and control being two aspects of the wheel of not domination, but the will of power or abuse that the narcissist will actually exert on their victims. Basically, there's power, okay, and there's control. Um, I find this is actually very hard for me to sort of explain directly what power and control mean individually. They are two very different things, although we tend to lump them up together. But I just want to talk a little bit more about something, a reference that Blake Lively made. Okay, she in one of the texts that she actually used, uh, I mean, which was addressed to Justin Baldoni, it sounded very much like a kind of intimidation. Okay, that narcissists will probably use, and it was very incidentally, it was a reference to the Game of Thrones character Khaleesi Daenerys Targaryen. Okay, the Targaryen line, basically the line of dragons, the House of the Dragon, which is obviously another drama series other than Game of Thrones. Okay, the Targaryens are supposed to be the true blue Targaryens. Okay, they were resistant to fire because they were the first dragon riders. But there was also a history of madness in their family. Okay, there is a history of madness in their family. So okay, then and there's also a lot of this miscegenation and incest going on in their bloodline as as a fantasy series. Okay, so where like brother and sisters, they end up together, they marry and they have kids, and obviously this kind of miscegenation or this kind of incest will lead to really really troubled bloodlines where the children have madness. So obviously in the Game of Thrones, the background, it was the King's Landing, which was the where the Baratheon family, the ruling kings were in charge. Okay, the Baratheons, actually the Baratheon house, the House of Baratheon, represented by the stag, okay, with his horns, actually managed to establish sovereignty or power and control via basically, how should I use it without getting censored? Unaliving, yes, unaliving, staging a coup, a rebellion, and unaliving the prior Targaryen king or ruler. Okay, so but there was something that Blake Lively said in one of the texts, okay, which actually directly alluded to the character Khaleesi, okay, a girl who was actually sold in slavery to the Dothraki, meaning a race of horse lords, and she actually basically nurses this one egg, and then she finds out that there are more eggs, obviously in the course of the different series, the series and the seasons. There were a few other eggs, and yeah, and then she had, I think, at least 3 dragons, or more. Okay, I think at least 3 dragons. Yeah, the one dragon that actually survived Drogon, but the other 2 got killed or somehow by the arrows or whatever. but this is a separate issue. But the issue was that the one text that she used. Okay, it sounded like a kind of not just antagonization, but an attempt to actually threaten Justin Baldoni. From the way I read it, okay, it's like, if you don't do this, I'll use my, she seems to be implying that I will use all whatever power I have, all the avenues. Okay, so let me just shift the focus around to the computer screen to what I have actually come across. This is from the source is from CNN Entertainment, but there are a lot of news channels that were actually basically citing this text. Okay, let me just. Okay, so Blake Lively was referencing Game of Thrones, and in this text that was addressed to Justin Baldoni. Okay, she said, if you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you appreciate that I'm Khaleesi. Okay, so she doesn't even hold back. She doesn't say I'm like Khaleesi. She says I'm Khaleesi. Okay, so this idea, the whole narcissism comes across where she says I am this great and powerful person. Okay, this main character, the syndrome. Okay, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. Okay, now you see where she's actually sort of like it's a very embedded threat. She's saying that I have a few sources of power. My so-called monsters who actually do whatever I want them to do, and then for better or worse, but usually better. Okay, you see, now she's claiming that she's fighting for good. Okay, because my dragons also protect those I fight for. Who is she fighting for? We know that she's not fighting mainly for anyone. She's just basically doing it for herself. When she actually ousted Justin Baldoni from the set of It Ends With Us. Okay, a lot of it has to do with the way that like this her husband Ryan Reynolds actually booted Tim Miller, the former director of Deadpool, the Deadpool movies, from the Deadpool movies, yeah. Tim Miller actually had said quite some time back in a recent issue of Men's Health that he couldn't really work with Ryan Reynolds, because if he had to work with Ryan Reynolds, he could not really put up with the control. Okay, Ryan Reynolds very, very much oriented towards trying to control him, and he wasn't going to actually do that. So he actually left the whole Deadpool series, which obviously led to Ryan Reynolds being the one who actually wrote the the screenplay, executive produced everything. And this is a very similar technique, but let's look at this. Because my dragons also protect those I fight for, she's implying that there's some kind of higher cause. Okay, this is one thing with narcissistic people or narcissists. They claim that there's some kind of a agenda, which is a kind of like a very holy agenda. Like they are some kind of martyr of freedom fighter for something, which we don't really. I mean, we don't really know about as the survivors looking at the outside world. And then she says this. So really, we all benefit from those gorgeous monsters of mine. Okay, they are monsters, and monsters we know are not really gorgeous, but she claims that they are gorgeous. So there's a kind of revisionism that is going on here. Okay, what seems actually really, really scary, disturbing, intimidating, and even evil. Okay, because dragons go around burning stuff and destroying things, and they actually sit in a hold of gold and everything, a pile of gold. But to her, Khaleesi, okay, from Khaleesi's point of view, and also from Blake Lively's point of view, is seen as something that is actually very gorgeous and beautiful. So you see the kind of revisionism and kind of inversion. What is actually evil or bad is being depicted as actually good. And then she makes a kind of promise. Obviously, this is the very common thing with narcissists. You will too. I can promise you. Okay, narcissists over-promise stuff. They often over-promise, but they under-deliver. This is something that one of my friends who works in investment, okay, or hedge funds, he used to tell me that this is one common tactic with people in banking and investments. They all very, very often overpromise, underdeliver. It's something that they just can't really do, because anyway, who can really get there and get to that stage? It's really dependent on the situation, the investment funds, and also sometimes things don't always pan out accordingly. So, but if you just look at this particular messaging, it's not really that subtle if you look at this way, because the few dragons that she was referring to, I mean, she meaning Blake Lively, she was referring to Ryan Reynolds, her husband, who was like a supposed A-list actor. I mean, there'll be people arguing that he's not really much of an A-list actor. He's more like a B-list, depending on how you see his kind of following. But he's one of the more powerful people in Hollywood based on the way he can affect the outcome. And we know that he was using his power and control to rewrite a movie like It Ends With Us, which was originally about DV but became something which was a kind of rom-com, a romantic comedy. It was totally gone off rail, and it became something that was really, really wrong. Okay, but we get a sense of it. One of the so-called dragons is actually Ryan Reynolds' husband. Okay, and the other dragon was actually Taylor Swift. Okay, the singer. Yes, the singer whom Blake Lively claims to be her friend, her best friend. Yes, and okay, this is one thing with narcissists. We know that, I mean, it's not only just narcissists. Any toxic people can use flying monkeys. Okay, flying monkeys need not be a hallmark of just narcissists alone. But Blake Lively was using, basically, she was not necessarily just using, but she was relying on the power and influence that Taylor Swift had as a pop singer, and also her husband Ryan Reynolds had as a leading actor. Since she wasn't really much of a A-list actor anyway, she's more like a B-list or C-list actress, who was just basically known for Gossip Girl, the series. And even Gossip Girl wasn't really that much of a it wasn't really that much of a phenomenon. Okay, and so the thing was this: her flying monkeys had kind of like morphed into her dragons. Okay, I find this statement about the Game of Thrones, it was a very interesting statement, because if you look at it this way, it seems that she has no, I do not know what the context, the real context for that particular thing, whether she included what really happened, but from what it appears, she has not actually really uh, read the novels, okay, written by George R. R. Martin, any of them, or she has not watched the entirety of the series, or if not, even if she hasn't watched it, she should at least be aware of the endings and everything, because you all know that Khaleesi, she wasn't just she kept, as a character, she kept on talking about breaking the wheel of power, that she wanted, because there was a problem of madness, okay, in the Targaryen household because of their incest that runs through the lines, and even for herself, like, she was being like literally pimped out by her brother, her older brother, okay, to the Dothraki lord, okay, and that's how she became Khaleesi, okay, so. And yeah, basically she was the whore of the Dothraki Lord. I can't remember the name of them. That was enacted by Jason Momoa. But the thing was that it seems that Blake Lively has obviously no prior inkling of the ending of Game of Thrones, in which at least the TV series, in which Daenerys, or Khaleesi, okay, goes mad. She doesn't just go mad. On her one dragon that was left, Drogon, she goes full ballistic mode, and she what does she burn? So I think she's supposed to burn King's Landing right to the ground. She raises King's Landing right to the ground, which was actually Dubrovnik in Croatia. Okay, and as a result, what happens is that her lover, Jon Snow, who was actually incidentally related to her, as very on a very indirect kind of basis. Yeah, because his mother was actually Rhaegar, but he was brought up as the bastard son of the Snow family, the Stark family, which was not really the case. Okay, because Rhaegar Targaryen, one of the basically the Targaryen princess, actually had an affair with the Stark Lord's younger sister. Okay, but that say she's the aunt of Jon Snow, and okay, but back to what happens. So Jon Snow obviously has to unalive his lover, okay, Khaleesi and Daenerys, because she was going around destroying stuff, and obviously it's a tragic ending where she ends up basically deceased, okay, and of course she leaves behind a total wreckage of King's Landing, and I was wondering, when she quoted this, or she made this kind of allusion from a like a literature major and English literature major, and who's teaching literature in a university, and one who actually is also teaching fantasy literature, is she aware at all of that context, and the fact that by doing so she is in a way signaling towards a potential collapse? Okay, narcissists all go through collapse, okay, they crumble, they implode from within, okay, and I think that she's probably not aware when she was actually using that particular allusion, because it appears that she's not very I mean, to be honest, I don't think Blake Lively is very, very smart. She's not a very smart lady, okay? She's just trying to use her physical looks, but there are more beautiful women than her anyway. So, yeah, there are more beautiful women. Scarlett Johansson is more beautiful than her. And even Justin Baldoni's wife, Emily Baldoni, she's Swedish and she's more beautiful. Sorry. Not sorry. Because Swedish women are more beautiful than Blake Lively, who's like, she's a very plain person. Anyway, she's a very plain blonde girl, okay? And that the whole fact that she wasn't aware just made me realize, that she in a way, you look at this way, narcissists often tell on themselves inevitably. Okay, so they might not say that. They might say, "Oh yes, I know what I'm doing and everything." Okay, but they eventually actually uh, reveal themselves. Okay, and this is the thing that we have to be really aware. Okay, you can't really hide from what your true self, which is a very pathetic one, really is. Okay, and yeah, this is actually what I actually wrote about. So yeah, basically let me read this. Narcissists always tell on themselves eventually. Blake Lively obviously has not watched the whole spill on Khaleesi Daenerys Targaryen in the drama series of Game of Thrones, in which she goes psychopathically mad and destroys the whole city and its people. Okay, before she has to be unalive. No, I didn't say unalive. I used something else, but I don't want to get blocked here. Before she has to be unalive by Jon Snow. So narcissists often have a love for appropriating something for their own nefarious agenda, but without a due understanding of the context. Okay, this is pretty much Blake Lively, and she behaves a lot like a typical narcissist. Okay, this but talking now that we're talking about, there's this thing about the conflicting messaging. There's another thing about the conflicting messaging that narcissists send, and we also get it via, you know, social, not just social media, but even via uh, movies, and especially fantasy movies and fantasy literature that are being adapted, which are being adapted into movies. So let me just show another clip. Okay, from the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. Okay, basically when this is basically when Galadriel show basically reveals the mirror of Galadriel. Okay, the Elf Queen, or the lady as she's called in the novel. She reveals the mirror of Galadriel, which can show things like past, present, and future to anyone who looks in. And Frodo tries to offer her the one ring of power, and in that moment she is being offered that one ring. She starts throwing, that this particular glamour, in witchcraft is basically the illusion of her being beautiful and everything. And in that process, at the end of it, after she has done that, she eventually tells Frodo something, okay, something which is not being really focused on. But let me just show you the clip. Okay, it's like just I can't show everything, but let's do this. Um,
Will you look into the mirror?
What will I see?
Even the wisest cannot tell, for the mirror shows many things. Things that were, things that are, and some things that have not yet come to pass. I know what it is you saw. For it is also in my mind. It is what will come to pass if you should fail. The fellowship is breaking. It has already begun. He will try to take the ring. You know of whom I speak. One by one, it will destroy them all.
If you ask it of me, I will give you the One Ring.
Just know that it's actually done telepathically. Yeah, it's not done by speaking directly.
I do not deny that my heart has greatly desired this. In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me and despair! I pass the test. I will diminish and go into the west and remain Galadriel.
I cannot do this.
Okay, anyway, this is actually, yeah, that's the clip, okay? So this is from the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. There's one thing that I noticed, this is like, I have this theory, basically, the talking about fantasy literature, because you know that actually George R. R. Martin, when he wrote the Game of Thrones, he wrote it as a kind of like a fanfic response, fanfiction basically response to the Lord of the Rings. Basically, he actually loved Tolkien, but at the same time, while he loved Tolkien, he felt that there were certain things that were not being answered. Let's say, when a particular race, a person marries another person from another race, what will happen? So, you have the zombie-like beings from beyond the wall, like their icy-like beings who get killed by swords and everything, when they do disintegrate eyes, everything. But of course, there was some mention in one of his in the law of George R. R. Martin that what happens if they marry or they come together with humans and intermarry with them, and there's some mention of it. But that's it. Okay, the reason why I chose this scene from the Mirror of Galadriel in the scene from the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring, is that you do realize that in that particular scene, Galadriel actually says, "I passed the test," and right after that, when she says, I passed the test," basically the temptation, whether she wants that power, she says, she refuses it. Obviously, she says that because she's projecting what will happen. They say everyone will love her, but at the same time they will despair, and she realizes, oh, you know what? At the end of it, she said, "I will diminish." Okay, this is something that I talked with my psychologist about. I told her, that because I was still processing my PTSD trauma. I said, do you realize that when narcissists, the way they live, okay, they will not accept defeat no matter what. Okay, they want to win at all costs, even if it means trampling someone, okay, and destroying someone. And as a result, they go to extremes. I told that the groomer in my life, the former groomer, started taking anabolic steroids. Always, obviously, could not just compete with me, but against everyone else who was into fitness and bodybuilding. And there was an attempt to actually not just compete in that sense, but to sort of destroy us, the so-called competition and rivals who didn't really treat him as a rival anyway, because we don't really care, and we just wanted to relate as either a friend or whatever. But it looks like they, or even if not a friend, at least just a good person. But they don't. Okay, the things that they do, I told many other people of this other than my psychologist. Humans, okay, who are empathetic, we all know that we will end up declining, or we will end up, and we have to accept that as a rule of fact. I'm not saying that I'm not going to say that I'm going to look decrepit 1 or 2 years from now. I don't think so. I'm still doing my best to keep looking good as I can, as is possible. Okay, I don't go to extent of like doing things like using drugs or steroids or whatever, and I take I live a healthy lifestyle. But this is not so for narcissists. Still go to extremes, and just like what that ex-groomer is doing with anabolic steroids, employing a coach who's a former competitive bodybuilder, and the funny thing is they're not even doing it to compete. They're doing it because they want to actually get laid, or to bring down other people in the process of doing so. And it's a form of supply for them. Okay, some not so many narcissists do that, and I'm not even talking about the ex-groomer, but in the case of people like, let's say, Blake Lively, she has had quite a bit of work done, to have had 4 pregnancies, okay, right until now, and having given birth, and then between her and Ryan Reynolds, they have had 4 children over 15 years, and still look young and relatively not beautiful but pretty, okay, and attractive enough sexually. And I don't believe it's natural, because that's a separate issue, but it looks like the way that she's going about, other than the physical aspects for being, somatic narcissism has the element of the physical looks, the reliance on physical looks, but it's also on top of that, it's the it's not just that, it's the mentally, psychologically, sorry, I'm just burping, haven't had enough water, mentally and psychologically, there's this resistance towards declining. Okay, that is not just in the case of the ex-groomer, but it's also in the case of like people like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. They will not go down. They will not go down without a fight. And when they go down even if they go down with a fight, they will drag down many other people. Okay, so let's say if I have to decline, you have to decline along with me, and you have to decline more dramatically than me. And it seems to be more and more obvious that based on all this mixed messaging I get from all this, with Blake Lively, the way she alluded to Khaleesi, and also what I've been doing with the work I've been doing in Lord of the Rings and Tolkien and fantasy, it seems a lot to it seems to actually conform to the pattern of how narcissists actually behave, not just somatic narcissists, but even cerebral narcissists. And I think yesterday I had this thing with the psychologist too. I told her about this so-called content creator Nut Poacher, Blossom. I don't really care about her because I don't follow Nut Poacher, because I think she's extremely negative. She hates all men. Okay, she can prove us wrong. She doesn't like any man. It's quite obvious. She makes very she doesn't even like women. She actually makes very disgusting remarks, calling women who disagree with her female narcissists, and she insults them. And it just makes me realize, because with the turn of the tone, it just makes me realize, okay, the thing is Khaleesi, okay, she wanted to break the will, but in trying to break away from the will, because she couldn't face that this thing was in her family, and she goes basically the whole trauma, losing her dragons, and being betrayed, or not being betrayed, or being disagreed with against by people like Jon Snow. Okay, they don't believe in her tactics or whatever to rise to power. She goes crazy, and then she even does things like the monster that she doesn't want to become basically becomes her, and this is basically what's happening to people like that, like so-called alleged feminist content creators. Okay, in not wanting to become the monster, you become that monster, you spit out all the fire, okay, at other people. And she does that quite a lot. She's been doing it, I've been noticing it. It's kind of interesting and entertaining, but at the same time, I don't think there's any need to bother, because obviously what dragons do. Yesterday, the day before yesterday, not yesterday, but day before yesterday, few of my students during the class, they brought their so-called wizard's hat. It's just like a set up while they were doing a class. So I went to one of them and said, did you bring this intentionally? What were the other classmates? Were they in the same were they your friends before that, but why are they wearing it? I said, no, I just wore it for fun. I came in like that, and then they just happened to be the same class this semester as me. Oh, so okay. And so I said, I can't remember that when I was talking about this hat, they asked me, Professor, do you want to actually wear this hat? I said, no, it's okay. I don't need a hat like this, the pointy witches or wizards hat. I don't need that to connect to source. I was just my way of trying to be cryptic and funny about it. But I just kind of realized this with narcissists, they definitely don't feel the need to actually connect to their trauma. They run either they either run away from the trauma, or even if they do face it, they blame it on someone else. It's always a blame game. They'll be blaming someone else every time, and instead of taking responsibility, you know that even if you were to actually heal, you will be responsible for your own healing. Okay, to do that, you have to use very positive means instead of always whining. And obviously in Australian English or Australian English we say Australia they say whinge. I said, oh yeah, whinge, WHING, whinge as in whining. uh, they whine a lot. It's like the boo hoo hoo, woe is me. But they're not really that much of like really great martyrs and victims anyway. They make it a job to be professional victims. Okay, but anyway, that's it for now. So if you have any kind of like interesting things to add about this whole fantasy media and fantasy film messaging about narcissism, maybe you can just add to that in the comment section. And respectful comments though, because if you have disrespectful comments, threats or anything, they will not see the light of day either way, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so have a good one everyone. Bye bye.